the atrocities of October 7th, Hamas attacks, they're just beginning of the brutality. A Hamas official says the terrorists won't stop until Israel is destroyed.
Israeli members of parliament were moved to tears after watching raw footage of the brutalities against their people. And yet, President Biden has joined international calls for Israel to pause its offensive in Gaza. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell reports from Jerusalem.
For the first time since the war began, foreign nationals, including Americans, are getting out of Gaza. The U.S. State Department is helping the U.S. citizens there.
In the past 24 hours, we have informed U.S. citizens and their family members with whom we are in contact that they will be assigned specific departure dates.
The State Department says there are about 1,000 American citizens and family members in the Gaza Strip.
Working nonstop to get Americans out of Gaza as soon and as safely as possible. This is the result of intense and urgent American diplomacy with our partners in the region.
President Joe Biden also called for a humanitarian pause in the fighting. Secretary of State Antony Blinken is departing for Israel and Jordan Thursday as international criticism of Israel builds. Jordan recalled its ambassador, and some are concerned the U.S. will ask Israel to stop its ground campaign. On the ground, the Israeli military announced it's at the gates of Gaza City. Soldiers and tanks are seen in this Israeli Defense Forces video as operations intensify inside Gaza. The IDF says dozens of Hamas targets, including observation posts, anti-tank squads and launchers, vessels and military outposts, have been destroyed. Israeli leaders are warning this new phase of the war will be long and difficult. The IDF also released this conversation showing Hamas taking fuel for its war machine from a Gaza-based Indonesian hospital. Turkey and Iran's foreign ministers met Wednesday in a show of solidarity. Iran's foreign minister says the region is on the brink.
Undoubtedly, if the war isn't stopped immediately, the United States of America, the fake regime of Israel, and the supporters of the continuation of the war crimes will be directly responsible for the situation in the region getting out of hands.
Some 240 people, including Americans, are still being held hostage by Hamas. A Hamas official in Lebanon declared they would repeat October 7th. He said, Israel is a country that has no place on our land. We must remove that country because it constitutes a security, military, and political catastrophe to the Arab and Islamic nation and must be finished. We are not ashamed to say this with full force. It is Israel, not us. We are the victims of the occupation, period. Therefore, nobody should blame us for the things we do. On October 7th, October 10th, October 1,000,000th, everything we do is justified. On Wednesday, members of Israel's Knesset watched the raw footage from the October 7th massacre. Many left the auditorium overwhelmed and weeping. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Flor Hassan Nahum is the deputy mayor of Jerusalem. She joins us now from our bureau there. So we're hearing President Biden, he's supporting a humanitarian pause in the fight against Hamas in Gaza. What's Israel's response to that?
Well, I think that what they understand in Gaza as a humanitarian pause and what we understand as regular people who keep law and who have humanity is very different. Even the ex-Secretary of State Hillary Clinton said 2 days ago that a humanitarian pause is not a good idea, a ceasefire is not a good idea, because Hamas, who have been stealing food and fuel from their own people, will simply use that moment to rearm, to re-strengthen themselves and to keep attacking. You've already heard the words of different Hamas officials. So why would any country give a humanitarian pause when you're dealing with people who don't understand what humanitarian rights are?
How severe is the public perception, the international perception? You know, I'm hearing lots of different reports that the international court's coming in talking about war crimes. You're hearing it from the UN Secretary General. How is that received in Israel?
I think the world is very confused because there's a difference between war and war crimes. War crimes are when you go purposefully to torture and to kill innocent civilians. War is when a country defends itself and attacks and tries to do everything it can in order to protect their citizens. Israel is not committing war crimes because we warn people ahead of time, which, by the way, I don't think any country has ever done, and we actually are out to kill the Hamas terrorists, not innocent people. Now, are there civilian casualties that happen in war? Absolutely. War is ugly, but it doesn't mean that this is a war crime. We are allowing humanitarian aid to come in. We've let 100 trucks of humanitarian aid every single day, which is actually more than the other side are doing, who are not even giving us any type of proof of life or any type of assurance that our 230 hostages, amongst them 5-month-old babies and 85-year-old elderly people with dementia, are getting any type of assistance. We even don't know if they're alive at this point. And so I think that if Israel is outstretching its hand to the innocent civilians of the Gaza Strip with the humanitarian aid, as we've opened up the crossing of Rafah, the least they could do is give us some type of information, of proof of life, of medical assistance to our 230-plus hostages.
Tomorrow is a significant day. The head of Hezbollah is going to have a major speech. Are you anticipating that there'll be yet another front in this war?
Well, I think that there was a big plan here, Iranian plan, because they're behind everything. They're the big puppet masters. And essentially, Hamas in Gaza is a proxy, as is Hezbollah, as is Syria. They've completely destroyed Lebanon. They're in Afghanistan through the Taliban and Iraq and, of course, Qatar and Turkey. And so this is the big plan of Iran, which includes, at some point, getting to the free world, including the United States of America. So I don't have many expectations of the arch-terrorist leader of Hezbollah. He has been essentially pricking Israel, but not really starting a full-out war. So perhaps he's announcing there's going to be a war. And at that point, I think it'll be very useful. And the United States of American government have been extremely supportive. They understand that this could conflagrate into a regional war. And America has already picked a side, thank God. And they themselves are being attacked by Iranians at this point. So this could conflagrate into a regional war.
Let's talk about that regional war and particularly the threats coming out of Turkey that they're going to send troops to Gaza. They're calling for ceasefire. What would happen in a regional conflict if a member of NATO, Turkey, a member of NATO, gets involved in this war?
Well, I think that promptly, I would hope, they would get kicked out of NATO because Turkey really hasn't decided who it is and what it wants yet. On the one hand, they're constantly flirting with the West. They wanted to be part of the European Union at one point. They joined NATO. But on the other hand, they harbor a fundamentalist. They harbor terrorists. They've completely ruined any type of freedom of speech, free press. So they eventually will have to pick a side. Knowing Erdogan, who is very much connected to the Muslim Brotherhood, he may pick the side of evil. And if he does, then I believe that the member states of NATO have a difficult decision to make. And I hope, with the guidance of the United States, they will kick them out.
What about even a bigger conflict? Iran supplied weapons to Russia that are currently being used in Ukraine. Azerbaijan, what they're doing in Armenia. Could Russia get involved? Hamas just recently, like yesterday, met in Moscow. Is that an even bigger concern that we could see not just the region, but Russia get involved?
Absolutely. Russia has made the most horrible statements, even yesterday at the UN, putting all the blame on Israel for an attack that we didn't start, that was unprovoked, for a massacre that they haven't recognized yet. Russia doesn't have any values. They don't really have any type of moral compass. They will go for what's good for them. And at the moment, allying themselves with the forces of evil in Iran is good for them because they've been isolated by the United States, the West, and Europe. And so they're just picking whatever side is good for them. They have skin in the game. They're in northern Syria, in southern Syria. And so this could definitely be the start of a third world war. I don't want to be the angel of doom here, but it only takes a few wrong moves by the dangerous players in this region for this to become something really much wider.
What can people who do have a moral compass, you're talking to a lot of Christians right now. I know you meet often with Christian groups in Jerusalem. How can the Christian community, not just here in the United States, not just in Europe, but around the world, how can we stand with you at this time?
Well, first of all, I have so much love and appreciation for our Christian friends from all around the world. I get messages every single day. People in the Christian world are not confused. They understand what evil is, and they understand what good is, and which side Israel and the United States are on. So firstly of all, I have great appreciation. But I think there's something very practical the Christian world could help us with, and that is pressurizing the Red Cross to do the right thing. 2 days ago, the Israel Prison Authority got a letter from the Red Cross where they were concerned about the terrorist prisoners that are in Israeli jails. Now, the Red Cross have had zero contact with the Israeli hostages, like I said, amongst them 5-month-old babies, elderly people, women being raped, nothing. They have not pressurized Hamas to let them go and see, even give us proof of life. They've done nothing. Now, I know the Red Cross today is not a Christian organization, but it was originally a Christian enterprise. And so if the Christian world can help us pressurize the Red Cross not to choose terrorists over innocent civilians, young babies and elderly, and help us with the hostages to help us get proof of life, to help us get the medical assistance, because some of them may be dying just from being injured. That's, I think, something very practical that the Christian world could help us with today.
Well, thank you. That's very practical, and we will endeavor to do that. Deputy Mayor, thank you for being with us, and we stand with you, and we pray for you, and we know that you're going to be strong and courageous in the months, the days, the weeks coming ahead. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.